of Orlando, Florida. You are listening to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice. And I am your host, David Gornoski, your neighbor here in beautiful Central Florida. We're wanting to make sure all of our neighbors in northern Florida get in a safe place. We have a hurricane headed that way and the Panhandle area, and everyone heed the monitorings that are being done by the government and get to a place where you're safe. We don't want anybody to get in any bad situations. We are all about taking care of our neighbors here, and that includes hurricanes. You know, it's always good to have your neighbors back and make sure that you make it through the waters. We have another jam-packed program tonight. We are all about solving the problems that no one wants to deal with. You know, I just really want to focus on, all the hubbub that's been taking place with Brett Kavanaugh here for a moment. He's now been confirmed as Supreme Court Justice. It seems as if somewhat of the circus atmosphere has kind of tamped down a little bit, but I don't think it's over. I think they're going to continue to use this as a contentious issue to try to make it, a big partisan game. And I think we need to focus on the real facts of this story so we can look at it and then move on and hopefully learn lessons from it. One, we are about solving problems that we know that the government can't solve for us. You know, this idea that a Supreme Court, a group of 9 sages can somehow make edicts ex nihilo for 310 million people from on high is completely antithetical to what the founding fathers intended for the Supreme Court. They never intended for the Supreme Court to be able to make up law in what we call positivism. Positivism is a philosophy which says that law is not inherently innate. The founders were interested in a concept called natural law, that law was immutable, unchanging. It doesn't depend on the whims of the crowds or, popular opinion swaying here or there. Law was immutable. And that's what the founders remembered. But over time, the court has moved into a positivistic philosophy in which law is made as we go, based on precedent. It's like a rolling stone downhill that's collecting new court cases that then interpret and reinterpret and create new laws as we go. And that's simply not what the founders intended. The founders believed that true law is immutable. It doesn't matter what changes, it's never right to hit someone, okay? You cannot use coercion, such as, putting a gun to someone's head to make them a nicer person or to share their wealth in a more equitable fashion. You cannot make people through the force of gun to, become better to their employees or pay them a better wage. The founders understood this. They understood that the power of a federal government, a central authority, once you start allowing it to police your personal affairs, it becomes a tyrannical authority that becomes out of control with no ability to clamp it down. Once you decide that law can be decided as we go, it really is no law at all. And that's where we are, because we've got a nation tearing itself apart over who's going to have control over a Supreme Court that can issue law as it goes, like a supreme wizards that can decree things for all 310 million people across this entire vast country. And it's simply an untenable idea. So that's the first principle is, let's not sit there, whether you like Brett Kavanaugh or against Brett Kavanaugh, and think this is really, in the long term, the solution for our problems. We cannot rely on a central authority like a Supreme Court to decide how we're going to solve our problems. It's never going to work. There's no one-size-fits-all way to manage the affairs of 310 million people, and it's against the Constitution. So the number one thing in the long term to really resolve so much of the hate and animosity on the issue of Supreme Court is to use the constitutional power of Congress to restrict the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court over issues related to things like abortion, marriage, personal vices, things like that. Those should be left to the states and local governments and those communities to deal with, not one-size-fits-all edicts from on high. So those of us who love liberty, those of us who are conservatives, we have to stand strong on the notion that power should be dispersed and decentralized, and that's the way you can have little laboratories, little republics dealing with these hot-button topics in their own communities rather than trying to solve it for everybody. So that's the first lesson we need to take away. Another principle is that regardless of the facts, we don't know what was really going on in those parties, but there's something that we have to maintain our allegiance to, which is the presumption of innocence. That is the hallmark that made the West great, is that the individual person is sacred against the collective. And that doesn't mean that there's no concern for the collective. Far from it. If we take care of the individual person and say we're going to protect them from the mob passions of the crowd, no matter how unpopular that person is, we're not going to let them just be accused and thrown to the wolves because they're unpopular or people hate them. We're going to protect them from the mob. We're going to have due process. We're going to have a fair trial as much as possible. That is the that is a fundamental thing that made the West what it is today, and we cannot lose this. We have to protect the vulnerable in our society, but the best way to do that is to protect the presumption of innocence, not just as a legal aspect, but also as a cultural norm, that we tend to extend a presumption of innocence on those who are levied with great grievous accusations, because that's the way we have a society where mercy abounds and sacrifice is not the rule of law. We don't go around sacrificing people because we don't like them. And I'll give you an example of why that's important. I've told you before on previous episodes that my friend in Papua New Guinea, Monica Paulus, she's a wonderful lady, and I've been trying to get her on the program, but it's very difficult for her to get a signal to get into our station here live, but we're going to find a solution somehow. But she, over in Papua New Guinea, she was falsely accused of practicing sorcery, and she was accused of doing witchcraft in her village, and that they said that was the cause of a man who died in her village. Now, we on the outside, we look at that and we say, well, there's no way, sorcery is not what killed that man. And so, of course, she's innocent. But to the people inside of Monica's culture, they've been having sorcery as something they believe in for tens of thousands of years, and they still have that. It's very unanimous that sorcery is what makes life or death happen. Sorcery is what creates calamity in a community. And so to the people who were trying to kill my friend Monica Paulus in Papua New Guinea, they believed with all surety that she was guilty of the murder of a man by sorcery, just as strongly as half of the country believes that Brett Kavanaugh truly did assault that woman, even though we really don't have any corroboration for that. We don't know, but they believe that in their heart that he is truly guilty, just as much as Monica Paulus's accusers in Papua New Guinea. They are sure. They know, I'm telling you, they know that witchcraft is a thing. That's what they believe in all their hearts. They're all consensus. They're unanimously agreeing on that. And they believe that when someone dies in the village of an illness, they think it's caused because of some kind of witch spell or something. And so they look around for women. If you cough wrong, if you look at them wrong, and they'll just say, hey, you're a witch, you did it. And she's not a witch. She didn't do anything. And she luckily was able to flee her village in Papua New Guinea and have safety there. But guess what is the integrity that makes the West what it is? It's that we have presumption of innocence. If Monica Paulus was not lucky to be able to escape that village, they were not going to presume her innocence. They did not have a mechanism in culture to protect her innocence. They did not have a fair trial process. They had, you're guilty, and the more people start pointing fingers her way, the more it becomes even stronger conviction that she truly did kill this man when she did not. So from us on the outside, we sit there and high and mighty and say, how primitive it is that they are so convinced she could do this. But what about in our country, where half the country is convinced that because a man was nominated by Trump, and he's a Republican, and he went to a Jesuit school, and he's a rich white conservative, or all these other things that half the country thinks makes you look guilty. Therefore, he fits the profile of the witch or the sexual assaulter, and therefore they make a condemnation. And we cannot have that in our society, because that's what makes us any different from the society that Monica Paulus almost died being accused of being a witch. And many women like her are being burned alive in her home country. Burned alive, tortured, because these people truly, they're not just playing a game. She tells me this. She says they really, truly believe that witch spells are what caused the death of a child, when it's really just an illness. They haven't moved past that in their cultural history yet. And we are either, if we don't protect the sacredness of innocent until proven guilty and the protection of the individual against the mob passions of the collective. We are no different from that. We may not do it as flagrantly as burning a witch, but we'll certainly throw you into a cage or ruin your life or make you a social pariah. And in some sense, that's a living hell in its own way. And we have to treasure what made the West great. We, because of 2,000 years of Jesus' influence on our legal structures, on our storytelling, on the way we tell movies, the way we share lessons and morals and values through the ages, we protected the sacredness of an innocent man accused by a collective. That's what Jesus was. They said he's guilty, and there was no presumption of innocence. They just were whipped up into passions of anger and aggression, and they did not know what they were doing as they persecuted Jesus. But because of his story's power, that he was vindicated in that story, wherever we share that story through history, it undermines this idea that you can burn witches and that you can kill people without any kind of due process or anything of that sort. So, folks, that's what's at the stake. That's at the heart of what we're dealing with here. This is everything about what our society is about. And if we don't get this right, we're not going to get any of the other things downstream from it right, folks. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski. This is News Radio 93.1 WFLA. We'll see you in a second.
Someday.
And welcome back to the most electrifying show in media, A Neighbor's Choice, where we practice loving our neighbor as ourselves, because that's what makes the world move. That's what changes lives, is when we stop seeing human beings as dispensable and able to be used and manipulated for whatever aggressions we want to channel onto scapegoats. We don't have scapegoats anymore. 2,000 years since Jesus entered into the history of humanity, we are upending. It's time for mercy, not sacrifice. And I was just talking about my friend Monica Paulus' story in Papua New Guinea, how she was falsely accused of sorcery and witchcraft. And lo and behold, she called during the program. So I've got her on speakerphone. Let's see if we can hear from her. I don't know if this will work out, folks, but we're going to do our best. Monica, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can the folks hear Monica? Go ahead. Monica, tell us what you're doing in Papua New Guinea.
Okay, my name is Monica Paulus, and I am from Papua New Guinea. What I'm doing is I am helping women and children and even older men who are being accused of sorcery and who have been tortured and about to be killed. Rescue them, remove them from the place of being tortured to a new place and relocate them to find a second chance in life to settle.
Wow. Now, have you? When's the last time you had a woman or person accused of sorcery in your villages?
The last time was in March this year, where I have to help the women, about 4 of them, to move them out. And 2 moved into Port Moresby in the city, and the other 2 moved back to their villages.
Wow.
That was over a young man's death there.
So you go in there just by yourself with no weapon, no self-defense, right? You just go right in there and stop the mob from attacking the woman, right?
Yeah, I don't have any weapon, but I use weapon like I have to talk to convince them or to tell them what they were doing were wrong. Sometimes it's like also it's very risky. It's putting myself at risk to do this work. Yeah.
And you were almost killed by a false mob too, right?
Yes, I was. That's when I was trying to help other women moved out, and also when I was accused, like there wasn't any attack, but by physically accusing me was like also there was stigma and discrimination that follows, and it passes on. Once like you are accused of sorcery in Papua New Guinea, the stigma and the discrimination that passes on from generation to generation. So you live with it.
Can you help our listeners understand? We're live here in Orlando, Florida, and if you want to call into the show to be a part of this, it's 407-916-5400. I'm speaking with Monica Paulus in Papua New Guinea. I've got on my cell phone right here, and she was falsely accused of being a sorcerer, and her village tried to murder her, and she was able to escape, fortunately. But she's helping other women right now rescue them from false witch hunts, too. Monica, tell us, why do they believe in sorcery? Do they really believe this, or is this a cover, or what's going on?
For me, like, I could say there was a belief in the past, but nowadays they're using it as a cover to take what you have, like if they want your land, if they want the properties that you own, then they have to accuse you, so that like once when you are being accused, you don't have the power or you don't have any support from the community to defend you, so your things will be easily been taken away from you.
Wow. So they use it sometimes out of jealousy. They want to take what you have, and so they accuse you of being a witch. Is there any due process or presumption of innocence in the process of a witch trial?
There is like, for example, like in my case, like when my father died, I bought a house for him in town. So because my brother after me wanted the house, there is no way like he will have to get the house. So he has to accuse me. So when he accused me, I am defenseless in saying anything that I have to say to defend myself to get a house. So that was the only way to get what I have.
Wow. So he was using the...
Similar to other women, yeah.
And were those people willing to... When you look, what was it like looking into their eyes when they're trying to kill you for this, that you did nothing wrong?
Like... In these sort of cases, like when it's related to sorcery, it's like very people that you trust and you rely on for support and for security are the ones that are against you. So when you look into that, it's like you're defenseless, and it's the very people that you rely on, and you think that they will support you. You've been loved and cared for by them, and now they're turning against you. It's like a shocking thing in life.
Can you reason with them? Can you talk to them one-on-one? Or are they almost like in a hypnosis or something, like a spell?
It's a mob. It's a group that work together. It's not individual one-on-one. But then they won't have the power to do that. So it's like when they want to attack, it's like a group that works together.
So they don't do it as individuals. They do it as a group.
They do it as a group, yes. But accusation can come as an individual. But when it comes to attack, it's a group that do it.
All right. So how can people help you in what you're doing to try to save women from witch burnings? And I hear they torture and do all kinds of incredibly horrific things, right?
Yes.
What can people do to help or get the word out about what's going on here so we can end this practice of witch hunt burnings?
What I think is the best to support the work that we're doing in Papua New Guinea and all this is like, we really need a human rights commission in our country at the moment. Like we don't have one established, which could also support the work of the human rights defenders who are working on this issue also. And also we need the support and the prayers of many Christians that we could work on this issue, because like for me, like I believe like there is the hell and there is heaven and there is devil and there is and what I'm looking at is there's a false accusation which they're trying to take innocent lives and they're taking judgment into their own hands.
Wow.
And for me, I think this is wrong to do this. Yes.
is the story of Christ, does that help bring people away from the witch hunts, the Christianity?
They're like you say, like Papua New Guinea, they will say they're a Christian country. They believe in they believe in God and Jesus and all this. But when you look at the way the actions that they do, it's really evil when it's related to sorcery. So for me, the word of God helps, but in a way, like people maybe hear it and they don't really put it into practice. If they put it into practice, they won't be judging, they won't be, killing people, they won't be torturing and all this. Yeah.
Wow. Well, folks, we've heard from Monica Paulus. Monica, thank you for joining on the program. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you, David. You're welcome.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was a fascinating experience. I've never done anything like that, taking a cell phone call on a live radio program. But that's what you have to deal with when we're dealing with something in Papua New Guinea, where it's very difficult to get a phone line, connected here in Orlando. But there you go, folks. That's what's so important about what makes America and the West, special, is that we presume innocence. We don't just go on mob hunts. And if we let America's law break down, where we start, bullying people in the social sphere and banning them from good jobs, banning them from social media, just making them persona non grata, then we're going to lose everything that made America prosperous, what made America free, and what made America a beautiful experience for people. We cannot lose that, folks. That is the cherished freedoms of our country, that the individual is protected against the collective. And we hope that we can spread the message for what Papua New Guinea is going through, too. I'm going to continue to research this and bring it to light, because this is a country where it's not getting enough attention. Seriously, no one's even knowing about this, that people are still being burned alive. We think that was done with hundreds of years ago. And it's still happening, folks. This is what we're dealing with on A Neighbor's Choice. We'll be right back in just a second. I'm David Gornoski, and we'll see you in a few seconds. Welcome back to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm your host, David Gornoski, and we are about solving problems neighbor to neighbor. We don't believe that we should have victimless crime laws. We believe if there is no victim, then there should be no crime levied against you. And that's what made America great, and that's what we are about on this show. We're about telling stories of scapegoats, of underdogs, people who have been treated horribly because of an unjust system that has gone totally awry. And so one of the things that we deal with a lot on this program is the drug war and how it is really becoming a savage machine. It's been like that for some time, and people are finally starting to wake up. And so I believe, as conservatives, as liberty lovers, people who care about the values that made America great, that we are about taking care of the least of these. And joining me now, I have a few friends here. I have Damaris Ramos. She is in studio with me, and she has gone through the belly of the prison system. She knows what it's like, and she kept through her faith and became strong in the faith and was able to have liberty, and now she's here with us, and she's a wonderful pillar of the community here in Orlando. And also, she is here because she wants to help spread the message about a woman who is currently in Tallahassee in the prison where that hurricane's headed. Her name is Evelyn Cecilia Bozon Pappa, and I hope I got that right. Evelyn, are you with us on the phone?
Yes, sir.
Well, isn't it so great to have both of you here, Damaris?
Hi, thank you for inviting me.
We have both Damaris and Evelyn. Evelyn, she has spoken so highly of you. She said you're like a mother to her, and that you really mentored her and helped her while she was in her time in prison. So I'm so glad to speak with you.
Yeah.
Evelyn, can you tell me a little bit about what it's like? You've been in prison now. How long?
Oh, I have almost 24 years.
Wow.
Almost 24, yeah.
24 years. Wow. And now I spoke to your daughter in Colombia, Martha Patricia Romero.
Martha Patricia, yes, sir.
And she made a beautiful video on Facebook, and it's on WhatsApp and everywhere, where she is talking about how she wants you to come home, and I think you should too.
Yes, sir. Yes. It's my baby daughter.
How old was she when you went to prison?
Oh, she have almost 11 years old.
Wow.
Now she's 34.
She's 34, and she spoke very eloquently on your behalf. It was very powerful to hear her. She said that, and she posted a photo of your mother, who is now 95 years old, and she has a sign saying, "Please let my daughter come home."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I received the pictures like months ago, and that break my heart in 1,000 pieces.
Wow. So tell folks what it's like to, you have your daughter, you have children, you have friends, you have your mother. Just try to give people who have never been impacted by the prison system, especially a life sentence for a nonviolent crime like you. Tell people what it's like. Can you give us a window of what it's like to be in your shoes?
Well, it's like that's not hard things. That's not hard things because it's all my life in here for nothing, for not doing nothing. Like it's a crime. It is not because I was his wife, the drug dealer wife. That's it. They don't catch me with any drug, with any possession, any money, any nothing. Only because I was his wife. Right. That's it. This is conspiracy.
Wow. And you have no opportunity for parole, do you?
No opportunity for parole, no opportunity for nothing. The court, they deny me everything. All motions and I'll submit. They deny me everything. I'm still waiting. They deny me the clemency 2 times. This is the second time they deny me the clemency.
Wow. And that was Obama administration you're talking about.
Obama administration, yes, sir.
Now, Martha told me that she has tried to come to America to see you, and she's been denied every time. So that's unfortunate.
They deny every time. I have almost 24 years. Don't see my family. Only my older daughter because they give it to her the visa because she climbed many times and pay a lot of money for that too. But they deny all my family to the visa for came to visit me. Wow. That's unfair.
Yeah, and now, so what do you do to pass time while you're in prison? Do you have any?
This call is from a federal prison.
Do you have any things you do to pass time, make it easier?
Yeah. I'm doing a lot of programs in here, and I have a lot of time, to study the laws and check every case if it applies to me, but nothing happens. Yeah.
Now, do you have any support, people that are on the inside with you that are, have like a faith or religious or bond that helps bring you together?
Well, only Damaris. Only her and I have a friend. They gone home like 5 years, 3 years. They help me sometimes to support me with writing me, and I have contact with them through the emails, through the phone, letters, pictures. Yeah, I have support for them too.
We have Damaris right here. Tell us, Damaris, why did you get involved? Why are you so passionate about helping Evelyn have clemency so she can come home?
I know her. I spent almost a decade with her. And I know that that she deserves another chance. Right. She's done so well. She has made sure that she used her time wisely, and she helped so many people. And I think she deserves a second chance. I had that opportunity, and my life became totally different. And I don't feel like she deserves to be in prison for the rest of her life, right, for whatever crime that she was charged with.
Right. And
23 years, almost 24 years, I think is more than enough time to have done in prison. Right. So, when she told me that her mother sent that picture, that's all I needed to help me get up and do something. I've been praying for her because, I have had a lot of brothers and sisters in the faith, and we'll pray for her. We'll keep her in her prayer. I'm like, thank you but I didn't feel like it was any more time to be praying. We need to be doing something. Right. And that's all I needed for her to tell me that her mother, who's 95 years old, had a poster and telling a little bit about the story. That's all I needed to do something. And about 3 months ago, I got with some people and I told them my situation. I told them that I have, I spoke with, to them about Evelyn, and they were like, we want to join. We want to be part of that. We believe that we can bring her story to the public and give her another chance. Right. So we started working on this a few months ago, and I thank you, David, for having us today, because Amy Pova from the Can Do Foundation, Justice Through Clemency, right. She connected me with you, and we believe that the winds are in her favor. Right. If we put her story out there, she deserves a second chance, just like Obama gave clemency to 1,400 and some people. Right. And she was denied. 23 years. How much more time should she serve in prison for?
President Trump, I hope you're listening. Evelyn, Cecilia Bozon Pappa deserves clemency. If you can see this story, see what you can do to give her mercy and not allow her to be separated from family that love her dearly. Obviously, Evelyn, you've made an impact on a lot of people's lives because you have people like Damaris here in Orlando coming to tell your story. You have your mother coming from Colombia on by picture, and it's spreading all over Facebook. So this is an international effort, Evelyn. People really love you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I know that. I have a lot of people love me. we still pray, but when you're still doing something, real hard to be, that's hard for me. That's hard for me to 23 years. We lost my life, and here, I have 57 now. I'm old now, but I still keep my faith and still keep my strong and, to help the people inside right here too, because we have a lot of young girls right here, and I'm help a lot to them, because they need it too. They need it too.
Well,
I'm sorry, I must intervene that we created, when we were in Tallahassee for almost a decade, we created a mentoring program because we felt like if we didn't reach out to those young girls, they were going to become convicts, okay? And the mentality is totally different. And we made our time helping and making our community better because guess what? That was our community.
Right.
And we knew that if we pray for the place and we help the place, we would prosper with the place. And Tallahassee was one of the number one places for educational programs, so we made it different.
I want people to understand the evil of this kind of law that say life. I know my friend was telling me that people who murder people, sometimes they get 13 years on average. So, or you do terrible violent crimes, you get hardly anything. But if you do a nonviolent thing, where you're involved with, someone who does drugs, I just think about how many people are wives or boyfriends or whatever, girlfriends to people who distribute alcohol, and how many hundreds of thousands of people, have dealt with alcohol addiction or alcohol overdose, liver damage, people who have drunk driving, and we don't see the wives of the owners of the beer companies thrown in prison for life. So, Evelyn, there's no reason why you should be there. It's completely unjust.
No reason. Absolutely no. Absolutely no. No, it is no reason for that. Only because I was his wife and he abused me all the time.
Right. And that's, a lot of times you get in situations where it's very difficult to get out, and we should not cast stones against someone not knowing the shoes, walking a mile in their shoes. We don't know the story about why people get trapped in really difficult situations. It's very dangerous.
Yes, very dangerous when the people try to manipulate your life and you don't know nothing. Even when I was young, I was 14 years old when I married with this guy. 14 years old. Yeah.
I don't think we should put someone in a cage for life because of choices that they started in 14 years old. That they snowball into things that are not in your control. And I understand, it's just America was not founded on that. America was founded on liberty.
Yeah.
Evelyn, I want to do whatever we can. CanDoClemency.com. CanDoClemency.com is the website where Amy Pova has been pushing clemency. And folks, we think that Evelyn is deserving of this. So, folks, go look up Evelyn Cecilia Bozon Pappa and look up her name and find out about her story and do what you can to spread the word to your neighbors, let people know that these laws need to be changed, and that if we live in a Christian country, we're going to love our neighbors as ourselves. And nobody would want their mother to be locked in a cage for life for bad choices or bad boyfriend or something when they started at 14 years old. This is an atrocity, and we have to have a reckoning with it, folks. If we ever want to have a country that has prosperity and God's blessing, we have to take care of the least of these, and that includes our mothers. And we are now going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back in just a second. You're listening to A Neighbor's Choice. I'm David Gornoski. Hi, this is David Gornoski, founder of A Neighbor's Choice. A Neighbor's Choice is sponsored by people just like you, making weekly or monthly contributions to support the development of this show, which is dedicated to introducing Jesus' personhood revolution to the broader public. Visit www.aneighborschoice.com, click on Contribute, and start your monthly pledge today. We appreciate your support.
For the smartest audience in talk radio, this is News Radio 93.1.
Welcome back to our final segment on A Neighbor's Choice Radio. I'm your host, your neighbor, David Gornoski. And wow, another jam-packed show. It flies by so fast. We pack in more content and more heart in 1 hour than these shows that go 3 hours, 5 days a week, I think. We jam-pack because there's so much going on, folks. And it's not on the headlines, it's in our neighborhoods. And I'm so glad Damaris is here with us in studio. Damaris Ramos, she is an advocate on behalf of the woman we just heard from, Evelyn Bozon Pappa, who is in prison for life in Tallahassee for a nonviolent crime. Folks, I want you to think about something as we wrap up. If you're ever called to jury and you see a person for a nonviolent behavior, you have as your right as a jury member to render a moral judgment on the law and say not guilty. So the next time you think about if you're ever called to jury, just look at the police report. If there's no victim named in the police report, that means you have a phony law. It means you have a law which is unconstitutional, which is immoral, and is un-Christian to continue to enforce. And the founders created the jury system as a way for us to have the final say over the moral character of our government. And that means when each of you, you're saying, what can I do? Well, you can get involved by looking up Evelyn Bozon Pappa's case. Go to candoclemency.com. Look up her name on Google. Stay in touch. They're going to have a petition on change.org. So put that in your bookmark, change.org, and look for Evelyn's name. It'll be popping up here shortly. But when you are in the jury box, you don't get to check out your moral character. Your moral character goes in there with you. The founders created the jury system as a means to check tyrannical, unjust laws. And I can't think of a more tyrannical law than putting a mother away from her child and a mother away from her mother for life for a nonviolent crime. We all have committed vices and addictions, or we've all done things or hung out with a wrong group or sided with the wrong character. But in the end, we have no right to use violence to solve that which only God can solve through a conviction of the heart. That is the way of the world. The way of the world uses violence to solve problems. That's what Satan does. Satan accuses you, he condemns you, and he throws you into the darkness of the belly of a dungeon or a prison cell and treats you as an animal and says you're not worth it. But Jesus says you are worth it. And Jesus says that you love your neighbor as yourself and that you show mercy, not sacrifice. Jesus says, go and learn what it means when God says, I desire mercy, not sacrifice. That's what you take into your jury duty. When you go to the jury duty, you think about that God and Jesus are telling you mercy, not sacrifice. So when you look at that person, I don't care what the nonviolent offense is, whether it's raw milk or possession of marijuana or some kind of conspiracy charge, because someone is a girlfriend to somebody who was running drugs, whatever it is, If there's no victim, leave them alone. Let them go and work with them as their neighbor. Get support. Get help. If there's a drug addiction, get help. But don't use violence to solve something that only God can solve. Damaris, thank you for being in the program. Any final thoughts?
Thank you for inviting me. And please, everyone who has been listening to us, remember Evelyn Bozon Pappa. We are advocating for her for another chance. Go to Can Do Justice Through Clemency. Amy Pova will be posting information about Evelyn. You can find her information on Facebook as well. Amy Can Do.
Thank you very much, Damaris. I appreciate you. It's a wonderful story, and thank you for being a good neighbor and loving your neighbor and never leaving people behind. That's very, very honorable of you to do that.
Thank you.
And so in these last couple of minutes, Dr. Yu, I just want to ask you, you're a physicist, and you always join us here for this final science segment. It's been a heavy show.
Thank you.
But I want to kind of give people, is there a physics component to why people are so stuck on these frequencies of negativity? How can we break free and create a positive resonance of love and joy? Any insights?
Because in general, life is not easy, especially for Damaris. So you do great service to help the people who are the weakest and have no voice. And also, so this is such an honor to great service to society and to humanity. So I'm really, so we needed this kind of positive attitude.
Right. You always talk about how our thoughts have their own frequency. And I think if we get more people having a thought frequency of love and joy, it's going to create its own resonant vibrations throughout the world, right?
Right. Through positive thoughts generated vibration, create, called a resonance. I do believe the voice and the thoughts from heart will move the world.
Wow. There's a physicist, so there's a physics component to what we're talking about. It's not just faith, it's science too that's at work here. That we have our own, if we speak with true conviction and we give a voice to the victim of people of unjust laws and mob rule, we can really resonate our way to a new world, right?
Yes, and the things shocking me the most is the human toll for the family of the victims. They basically spend since 11 years old, spend childhood and most of adulthood for one thing only, to bring mother home.
And that makes us ugly when we allow that to continue. Folks, this has been another amazing show. I've learned a lot. I hope you have too. I'm David Gornoski. If you want to email me, david@aneighborschoice.com. If you have a story or a passionate story you want to share or something new, you can email me, david@aneighborschoice.com. You've been listening to A Neighbor's Choice. We'll see you next Tuesday at 8 in the evening on News Radio 93.1 WFLA. Godspeed.